was a great thing when having Wenzels' attention was the alternative. I got a smile from Sandy as I passed through. Wenzel headed to the door and stopped himself. He turned back to Sandy with a smile. "Thanks, it'll be great." Sandy, smiles, folded the sheet and turned to me as he'd left. She threw me a beaming smile I couldn't help but match. "Want to know a secret?" she said. She couldn't hold it anymore. I'd not even replied. "You're coming to stay with me," she said, her green eyes sparkling, her long hair bouncing as she laughed. "What, really?" I asked. "Yes, but shh, it's a secret," she said quietly. I hugged her. I don't know why. Perhaps because I didn't get affection. Maybe because she was always happy, and that made me happy. Or perhaps because she was hot, but it was probably the affection thing. "Thanks," I said, and ran off. I'd be sorry to see Barry's bed and breakfast go, but Sandy's would be great fun. Bernie looked very flat at breakfast that morning. She didn't talk at all, which wasn't unusual, but it was somehow more noticeable. For her, things had got worse overnight, and I wasn't sure how. Wenzel was all smiles and even managed to throw Barry a "thank you for letting us stay, but I'm glad I won't have to eat the plate cracks anymore" joke. I didn't understand. How can you eat plate cracks? But Wenzel and Barry seemed to get it. It wasn't far to Sandy's. We passed my old Lacy Green school on the way. I thought about the guinea pigs and Arnie again. I'd not see Arnie, or Nan, or Alan again. I was starting to believe I caused problems wherever I went, and that good people always left me. Maybe I really was useless. I looked at Mum, stone cold, staring into the distance. I knew how she felt, yet I was angry with her. If she smiled more and just did what Wenzel said, he wouldn't be angry. He wouldn't keep moving us around. We were going to Sandy's estate. It was the nicest estate I've ever seen. There was a row of houses all joined together, with a flat on the bottom, which had a garden, and a flat on the top, which had a balcony. These rows turned into squares, each with a large field in the middle and a couple of trees. There were numerous blocks of these dotted throughout the estate. It was very pretty. The flat was quite small inside, only had one bedroom. Sandy gave us some juice, and we all looked on to see Mum, see if it was okay to take the juice. Mum gave us the nod and we thanked Sandy. Juice was Mum's job, not Wenzel's. We gulped it down. The sofa was a small two-seater. I sat beside Mum and Caroline whilst Jonathan and Jodie sat on the floor. Jonathan spotted a games console and kept looking at Mum hopefully, who half turned her head. No. Sandy spotted this and asked if he wanted to play. "No, it's okay," Jonathan replied. Mum had already said no. I don't know where Wenzel was. "It's okay if Sandy says you can," Mum said, and Jonathan was off playing golf on the game. We took it in turns to play. Sandy asked Mum if she'd like to join us. "No, it's okay, I don't know how," she said, sitting quietly. Sandy offered to show her, and again Mum declined. Us kids were having a great time, and Mum was being polite. Something wasn't right with Mum. I'd never seen her be so nice and polite. She was always flat. She'd still not had any alcohol. I couldn't pinpoint why Mum wasn't happy, but she'd got worse since Sandy vanished 10 minutes ago. I came off the game. "What's up?" "Just watching the game," she said, pointing to the TV. Jonathan and Caroline were playing together. Jodie was over by the wall somewhere doing something, doing a baby thing. "I know," I said, all smiles. "But what's up?" "Seriously?" I added carefully. Mum nodded to indicate behind her, but said nothing. I could hear faint talking. I can't remember what I heard, but I remember needed to distract Mum from it. "How do I do this bit?" I asked, grabbing the control pad. "Just hit the ball," Mum replied. "I did. I can't do it," I said. "Here." Jonathan piped up, holding his hand out and wanted me to give him his game back to play. "Not yet," I told him. "Here, show me." I gave Mum the control pad. I know what was said. It's one of the only conversations I can remember in depth with Mum. Sadly, although I feel the words, I still cannot hear her voice. I have no idea what she sounded like. This happens a lot with people who lose someone. I have relatives who had difficulty seeing her in their head, but could hear her just fine. With me it was the other way around. I can hear Jonathan's voice very clearly. and he still has the same sing-song tone, just a little deeper now that he's an adult. Yet when I tune into Mum's, I get nothing but a knowing of what was said. She played on the golf game for a long time. She had a way of totally absorbing herself in a game or a book. She was very good at spelling, knew a lot of general knowledge, especially about TV and the supernatural. Sandy came out of the bedroom and asked if anyone wanted to drink. Wenzel came out a few seconds later looking like a cat that had got the cream. Wenzel wasn't attractive by any standards. He was probably less than average looking. Slim build and pale features. He was slightly balding, and his glasses were a permanent fixture, held together with a safety pin. But he had charm, banter, and humour on his side. He was very persuasive, and women seemed to love him. Sandy went over to Jodie. Can't remember what Jodie needed, but Sandy picked her up. Mum was off her feet immediately. "I'll do it," she said. "It's okay," Sandy said. Wenzel shot Bernie a look, moved away from the doorway to stand behind Jonathan, and rubbed his neck. It was a warning that would appear as affection to Sandy. Jonathan carried on playing the game, ignoring him. Mum and I knew what he meant. Sandy does it, or else. Any trouble? Now alert Jonathan. His eyes bore into Bernie. She sat down. "Sandy, can we play outside?" I asked. I knew I risked a beating, but things had gone bad again. Outside we were safe. In here there was no hiding places. "Of course you can, dear," she said, flashy as a smile. I looked at Wenzel. "Off you go," he said. "Caroline, Jonathan, let's go," I called, pulling Jonathan to the door. "My game," he protested innocently. "We'll be there when we get back," I said, hauling him out onto the balcony. Sandy chucked us a thick bag. I briefly wondered why she had a football, but took it anyway. "Stay on the front," Wenzel yelled, and we were free. Chapter 18. We were just walking the field talking together. Caroline wouldn't say much, as she didn't want Jonathan overhearing, but I knew she was thinking the same thing I was. What the hell was happening with Mum? How bad was our situation? How could we all live in that poky little flat? And naturally, when we would be moving on again? One of us kicked the ball and Jonathan ran off to get it. As he did, two boys walked over to him. One was wearing a white on his top halfway because it made him look like he was concealing something. I slowly walked over, but by the time I'd got there, Jonathan was crying, while the boys held the bag open. "John?" I asked, as he turned and walked towards Caroline with the ball he'd retrieved. He was still crying. "Want to see too?" the lad said, meeting my eyes for a split second, then making a show of opening the bag. "What?" I asked, getting closer. "A hand. We have a human hand. It's all bloody and horrible. Have a look," one lad said, laughing. The other was grinning ear to ear and had a rounder face. I wasn't playing this game. I walked back to Jonathan, took the ball, put it in the thick bag. "He's really upset," Caroline said. Don't know exactly what changed in me, but something did. "Back in a minute," I said. Did a 180 and ran straight at both boys holding the football in the bag out in front of me. "Hey lads, look what I found," I shouted, eyes wide. The boys stopped walking away and turned towards me. They looked at each other. "What?" Fatface said, who was obviously confused. The other, a little cautious. I got closer as the same taller lad said, "What?" a second time, as I punched him square in the teeth. He fell flat on his back. "I have your fucking head," I screamed at the other as he stumbled backwards and legged it. I kicked his foot out from beneath him and he hit the floor. I didn't know what I was going to do, or why I was really doing it. I just knew the only person allowed to upset us was Wenzel, and family protected family. Alan protected me, so I took care of Jonathan. That's how it works. I grabbed Mr. Stumbly. "Wanna see?" I repeated, as scarily as I could. "Come near us again, I will take your fucking head off and put it with this one," I screamed into his face. I was suddenly stone cold calm. The lad was terrified. Job done. I instinctively knew how to scare them. Wenzel had done so many times before to us. Boy 1 was scared of violence, and Noisy Boy 2 didn't fear noise. He'd heard a lot of noise, but he didn't fancy a slap either. He didn't know me, or whether I really did have a head in the bag, or if I'd actually take his off. Internally he was questioning everything without logic, like a hamster spinning out of control. He was just accepting what was happening without understanding it. The lad I'd punched ran off. I let go of his friend and walked back to Caroline. What happened? She asked. Told him I had a head in a bag, I replied. What? She asked. Nothing. Let's go home, I said. I don't remember how long we were at Sandy's. I don't know where we slept or what we ate or pretty much anything. But I recall her long red hair and that we left and got back in the car. There was no promises of a house this time. There would be no new home, and things would change into a new kind of pain I'd never witnessed before, and wished I'd never had to then. A pain which echoes inside to this day, easing over time and experience. I have dealt with it and I have moved on. Yet I can never envision, nor would I want to, me doing to my family the things that Wenzels did to his. We'd been in the car a few days, at least, as I was very hot and sweaty. I remember my arms were darker than usual. It wasn't the sun. It was dirt. The itching had returned to my side. I had gone back to sending my mind away. I'd progressed from skateboarding, and I'd recalled everything I'd learnt at Aikido, and over again in my head. I'd memorised every song on the tapes we had. I had no patience, but didn't outwardly snap. I was 10 years old, and we were on a fast road when Wenzels stopped suddenly and slammed his hands on the steering wheel repeatedly. He gripped it hard, white-knuckling. Despite the change, I knew we were safe. He was angry, but not with us. I had a good job, you did, fuck off, he bellowed at Bernie. Ungrateful little fox, he yelled at us. Still safe. He was proper fuming, but he had no logic. He only hurt us where he was thinking clearly. He got out and paced without his sticks and then kicked the car. Fuck! Now we were in trouble. Pacing was bad. Very bad. Luckily I was wrong. He got back in the car and was instantly calm. I'm okay, he said, although nobody had asked. He swung the car around and pulled into a social services base. We sat in the waiting room. What's happening? Caroline asked me quietly, as Jonathan played with the toys and Mum and Wenzel were in the other room talking to social workers. I don't know. It's not good, I replied, putting as much emphasis on not good as I possibly could. I had that stomach feeling again, the one I'd had with Nan and Alan. This wasn't just bad. This was very bad. Jonathan kept trying to play with a plastic bat and ball set in the corner of the room. We kept saying no because we didn't know if we were allowed. The social worker came out. Why don't you play outside? This may take a while. Jonathan sat down next to me and none of us moved. It's a nice day out, the lady said. We remained seated. Dad, I called. It's okay. Go out, he called. We got up and the woman handed Jonathan the golf club set, and his face lit up whilst Caroline and mine fell. This was not good. I paced around the garden area with a tree in it. I was in my own little world. Why here? What is this place? What do they do? I had no answers. Is Mum going into hospital again? Perhaps it's about the agoraphobia, even though she's been fine recently. No, it can't be that. It's a bad boys' school because of the word search, perhaps. No, this isn't a school. You okay? Caroline asked me, touching my shoulder. No. This, I said, pointing at the rooms, isn't good. We need to leave, go back to Macclesfield, find a house, any house, even Rochdale. This, not good. Jonathan trundled over to me holding a golf club. Bat? He asked, looking at me inquiringly. No, John, it's a golf club. Go and play, I said. Bat? He asked, holding it higher and pushing it towards me to play. No, John, it's a golf club. Hit the ball with it. A little harsher than intended. He smiled and ran to find a ball. I talked to Caroline for around 20 minutes. Whatever we were saying kept being interrupted by John trying to get me to play ball. Bat? Play bat? He'd asked, trying to push it into my hand. No, John, I don't want to play, I said. Why? He looked sad, but kept his bat by his side. He walked a complete circle, then stood in front of me. Play bat? He asked cutely. I don't want a fucking bat. Fuck off and play, I snapped. Caroline gave me the same look Bernie gives Wenzel when he's been an arsehole. What? I said and paced in the opposite direction. We must have made up, because we were all playing hit the ball with the bat when Mum, Wenzel and the female social worker came out of the building. We off? I asked, wanting to be out of there as soon as possible. They could give me whatever bad news they had when we left. I stood by Wenzel's car. The social worker spoke. You're going to stay in a nice house with another family whilst your mum and dad find somewhere to live for you. Then you can come back, she said. She had yellow hair. I'd never seen yellow hair before. She spoke with authority. This is happening. It's not a question. I ignored her and looked at Wenzel and Mum. He was cold, unfeeling, just waiting for it to be over. Bernie had been crying. She had tears in her eyes, but was holding them back.